Hello everyone, my name is Nina Mirza and today I will discuss the Affordable Care Act, commonly known as the ACA. This presentation will review the policy's history, how it was created and adopted, the regulatory processes involved, and the current challenges and opportunities associated with the law. I will also apply social construction theory to explain how the ACA reflects broader ethical and political dynamics in public health policy. Prior to the Affordable Care Act, the United States faced significant public health and healthcare system challenges. Millions of Americans lacked health insurance, healthcare costs were rising rapidly, and individuals with pre-existing conditions often faced coverage denials. Access to care was highly unequal, particularly for low-income and medically vulnerable populations. These systemic problems created both economic and health consequences, setting the stage for major reform. The Affordable Care Act was signed into law in 2010 after decades of national debate over healthcare reform. The policy did not emerge suddenly, but rather built upon earlier reform efforts and state-level experiments. Policymakers aimed to expand insurance coverage, regulate insurance practices, and reduce financial barriers to care. The ACA represents one of the most significant healthcare reforms in modern U.S. history. The ACA introduced several major policy mechanisms. These included the individual mandate, which encouraged insurance participation, Medicaid expansion to broaden eligibility, and insurance market reforms that prohibited discrimination based on health status. The law also created health insurance marketplaces and provided subsidies to improve affordability. Together, these provisions sought to increase coverage while stabilizing insurance markets. Social construction theory helps explain how policies like the ACA are shaped by societal perceptions. Schneider and Ingram argue that target populations are socially constructed as either deserving or underserving. In the ACA, groups such as low-income individuals and people with pre-existing conditions were framed both sympathetically and critically in political discourse. These constructions influenced policy design, determining which groups received benefits and which aspects of the law faced resistance. This highlights the ethical role of perception, power, and values in public health policy. After passage, regulatory agencies played a crucial role in implementing the ACA. The Department of Health and Human Services, along with state governments, developed rules, enforcement mechanisms, and administrative structures. The policy also faced numerous legal and political challenges, illustrating how policy adoption is not a single event, but an ongoing process. Rulemaking and interpretation continue to shape how the ACA functions today. Like many major policies, the ACA has evolved since its initial adoption. Certain provisions, such as the individual mandate penalty, were later modified. States gained varying degrees of flexibility in implementation, particularly regarding Medicaid expansion. These changes demonstrate how policies are dynamic and influenced by political, legal, and institutional pressures long after passage. Despite its impact, the ACA continues to face challenges. Coverage gaps persist in some states, healthcare affordability remains a concern, and political polarization shapes public perception. Health equity issues also remain central as disparities in access and outcomes continue. These challenges illustrate the complexity of sustaining and refining large-scale public health policies. Future policy improvements could build upon the ACA's framework by strengthening equity-focused provisions. Addressing affordability barriers, reducing coverage disparities, and reinforcing protections for vulnerable populations remain important priorities. Applying social construction theory reminds us that policy success depends not only on technical design, but also on how societies define and value target populations. Finally, in conclusion, the Affordable Care Act is more than a healthcare law. It represents the intersection of policy design, politics, ethics, and social perception. Social construction theory helps explain both its protections and controversies. The ACA continues to evolve, highlighting the dynamic nature of public health policy. Understanding these processes is essential for effective health policy analysis. And lastly, here are all my references. This presentation draws on social construction theory from Schneider and Ingram, as well as the Ingram, Schneider, and de Leon framework for policy design. I also referenced the Affordable Care Act legislation and the APHA Advocacy Handbook to support the policy and regulatory discussion. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you all enjoyed this presentation.